Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Bible in 1 year with the preacher's husband. Today, we are going through chapters 35, 36, and 37 in Genesis. And we start out right away with God telling Jacob, "Get up! Go to Bethel. That's what you're going to do." And Jacob says, "All right, that's what I'm going to do." So, God tells him to go there, build an altar, and that he would appear to you, the God that appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau. That's the God. The God is talking to him. So he goes and he does this. But along the way, tragedy starts to happen. And basically, Jacob is faced with quite a few deaths at this point, just in a row. First, Deborah, the one who had nursed and raised Rebekah, died. And they buried her just south of Bethel. Then Rachel dies. After they get there, Rachel dies. They set out from Bethel to go on another little trip. Rachel dies. And she died in childbirth, giving birth to her last son. And it says here, during her difficult labor, the midwife said to her, "Don't be afraid, for you have another son." With her last breath, for she was dying, she named him Ben-Oni. But his father called him Benjamin. So Jacob called him Benjamin. Now, God appeared to Jacob one more time. And this is the second time that Jacob has been called Israel. Okay? God appeared to him and he said, "Your name is Jacob. You will no longer be named Jacob, but your name will be Israel." Remember when that happened to him in a dream? Jacob wrestled with God in a dream and he told him his name was going to be Israel. Well, now God comes to him while he's awake and tells him, "Your name is now Israel." And then when we get to verse 21, he is recognized as Israel. It says, "Israel set out again and pitched his tent beyond the Tower of Eder." Basically, the name is officially changed in the Bible from this point forward. And it talks about his sons, the 12 sons that he had. And then guess who else dies? Isaac. That's right, Isaac dies. But the thing about this is when Isaac took his last breath, he was 180 years old. And Esau and Jacob, or Israel, as we would call him now, buried him together. So, with his father's death, so were the troubles that had gone on with the brothers. They buried those as well along with them. Now, Rachel died along the way. Deborah died. Now Isaac's dead. And the next chapter talks about Esau's family. So Jacob's brother Esau, we've got his family. Now the family of Esau, he married three women, Adah, Oholibamah, and Basemath. And Adah bore a son named Eliphaz. Have you heard that name before? Eliphaz? Maybe the same name as that guy that spoke for like 6 full chapters in the book of Job, maybe? I just found that interesting. That was in verse 4 of chapter 36. And then Esau and Jacob went separate ways. Essentially, they did that because there were too much livestock. They had too much stuff between the two of them for the land to support it. There were too many animals, too many people, and too small of an area. It was basically going to turn into a desert because the livestock would have grazed it to death and there would be nothing left for them to eat. So basically Esau leaves and he moves elsewhere to the mountains of Seir. And then we learn about all of the chiefs from the Seir family, and the rulers of Edom, which is named after Esau, is also named Edom. All the different rulers through chapter 36. And then we get to chapter 37. And Joseph, the important one, the one that Jacob loved so much, his first son with Rebekah, the one that he loved, had a little problem. The problem was slavery. Daddy sent him to go and find out what his brothers were doing. Well, his brothers, they didn't like him. They did not like him to the point where they didn't even want to talk to the guy, right? This coat of many colors that Joseph had gotten from his father basically was a symbol that Israel loved Joseph more than the rest of the boys. He loved him the most, and it was a symbol that he was going to inherit Israel's leadership. So that didn't sit well with the rest of the sons. So anyway, he goes to look for him like his dad told him to, and the brothers, they start plotting against him, basically say, what should we do? Should we kill him? And then Reuben's like, no, let's not kill him. Maybe we just tie him up and we'll put him in this pit over here or something. And then they say, well, that doesn't really help us to put him in a pit, and it doesn't really help us to kill him either. That doesn't make us any money. Why don't we sell him to these guys that are coming by? So this group of guys comes by, and they're like slave traders, and they basically bought Joseph for 20 silver pieces. So the brothers got 20 silver pieces for selling Joseph into slavery. Now that brings me to a point here, and I'm going to set aside a bit of this story now and talk about slavery for a second. It's, people are in uproars protesting, but they don't understand that how much slavery is going on in the world today and how good we have it in the United States of America. How not racist we are. How much we do to prevent slavery from happening on a worldwide scale every single day. And I've put on here several pictures of modern day slavery and what goes on in this world today. It is absolutely atrocious, some of the things that happen. I put some pictures of the past, some of the Irish slaves, folks who are in sweatshops now working as slaves, people who are in slaves over in China, people who are sex slaves, people who have been stolen up and taken, children who are being forced to work in labor camps across the world. And the fact is, there's actually more people who are slaves today than there were at the height of the transatlantic slave trade. Did you realize that? That is disgusting to me. It really is. It is totally disgusting to me. And if you want to know a little bit about it, there's actually 6 countries in this world who have the most amount of slaves in the entire world. And those 6 countries are as follows. And these are stats from 2020 from World Population Review. In 2020, India currently has 18.4 million slaves. China has 3.4 million slaves, people who are in slavery. Bangladesh, 1.5 million slaves in Bangladesh. Pakistan, 2.1 million slaves. Uzbekistan, 1.2 million slave. North Korea, 1.1 million slaves. That's over 45.8 million, over 27.7 million slaves in the world, just in those 6 countries alone in 2020. The worldwide slavery number in 2016 was 45.8 million people in slavery. That's a lot bigger than the number I just quoted to you, 27.7 million slaves in the world today at least. That's because there have been some countries that are actually doing something about it. There are countries that are doing hard work to try to reduce the amount of slaves worldwide. And here they are. The top 3 countries in the world who are taking the most action against slavery worldwide is the Netherlands, number 1. Number 2, the United States of America. Number 2 in the world for taking the most action for trying to get rid of slavery worldwide. Number 3 is the United Kingdom. And the top 2 countries that are taking the least amount of action, North Korea and Iran. Go figure that. A couple of our bitter enemies. I wonder why they're bitter enemies against us. Well, North Korea, for one, has 1.1 million people that are in slavery in their country. And they don't want to end that. And that stinks. So from my perspective, if you think you live in a crappy country and you think the United States is a terrible place and that we're just a horrible country to live in and that we have no rights, our rights are being trampled on, think about it. Put it in perspective. Think about it. We live in one of the greatest countries in the entire world. We're doing almost the most that we can possibly do. There's more we can do, but we're in the top 3 countries that are taking the most action to end slavery. in the world. And this is not something that has just been going on for the past few decades or the past 100 years. We just read about it in the Bible. This was thousands of years ago, a couple thousand years ago. It was going on long before. And I will tell you, Dick Cheney, the 46th Vice President of the United States, said this: "It's easy to take liberty for granted when you have never had it taken away from you." I think we all need to sit back. We need to think about what's going on in the world today. We need to think about how good we have it. That's everybody. It's got nothing to do with our skin color. It's got to do with how good we really do have it. Our perspective on life. It really does. And this story about Joseph and his brothers turning on him and selling him into slavery, I mean, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to someone in the United States today. There are people that are being taken from the United States today and turned into slaves. And it does not matter what the color of their skin is. Just so you know. Well, God bless you. I hope this has touched you in some way. If it has, please share it. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, and of course, click that little jingle bell so you can get notified the next time I upload a video. And tomorrow, we're going to be moving on in Genesis. And we're going to go to chapter 38, 39, and 40. And it's going to be just as exciting, I'm sure. I hope to see you tomorrow.